Hi, this is a walkthrough of a microbiome which has low resolution. If you log in and you have a 16S style upload, you will see a whole bunch of choices here, which are all there because you have high information microbiome to work from. I'll give you one simple example. If you click on changing my microbiome, you will see KEGG here, information from the Guild Encyclopedia of Genomics. And that one works strictly off species and strain. So if the lab doesn't list out literally hundreds of species, we can't use it. We cannot, the data just isn't there. If we get down to the species and genus level, species and strain level, we are able to make use of this data and other data. So basically the reason I keep other lab analysis is we work with what we have. If you already have one, and particularly for those who perhaps are on disability, such as people with chronic fatigue syndrome, you can't afford to do many tests. If the tests are covered for whatever reason, or your doctor insists on doing them so you have it, rather than wasting money or having to dig up more money, I support them, and we will work with the information there as much as is possible. But the 16S tests are the preferred. If you're going in the US and you're going through Ombre Labs, formerly known as Thrive, you can get a test done for anywhere from $50 to $100. Often less than that if you keep an eye out for specials and do it through them. So it's there. Even if you do it through Ombre, you can take their data, pass it over to Biome site, and get an even richer set of mechanisms, a set of tools to get suggestions. But we're not going to be doing that. We're going over to our lab analysis. And we have a ton of different labs here. And what I'm actually going to be doing is looking at some of these GI map examples. So they have already uploaded it, saved it, and now I'm going to work from that point. And the thing to do is if you save it and then you log back in, you get a richer set of options. Just doing an upload with nothing more, you get a canned set of options to work with. When you go and you do a save and then log in, you get a better collection of options. So let's go in and take a look. So I've just logged in, and what we find is we don't have a whole bunch of choices here. We only have a few choices. One of the choices we do have is the level of display. Higher the level, the more information you get bombarded with. If you are technically minded, then you get that, etc. And give me a second, I need to log in again. If you change it away from the public default to a different level, you will unfortunately usually get logged off. And that's because there's sort of two different paths there. So I apologize if you change that and wonder why you get logged off. You do. We can go over here to see samples. We have one sample here. If we can just click here, we get the existing canned set of suggestions, and you can go and work with that. Gives you a bunch of options. For example, include commercial probiotics mixture. Now, let's go through a couple of things. One is allow you to select the scope. If you're working with a practitioner or a medical professional, you may be able to get antibiotics or other things. So you have a choice of more things which are excluded from the canned automatic list of suggestions. Now, we also give you the option of showing links so you can see where the data is coming from. Here is where we end up with a problem or issue dealing with the amount of data we have. What often happens is we have bacteria is arranged in a hierarchy. Bottom level is strain, species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, etc. These correspond in terms of a human population, so of a gut bacteria population, as for example, a neighborhood, a county, a state, a country, a continent, and so we have the same hierarchy. What we find is that sometimes we get information about a country, but we don't get it for a particular state or neighborhood. So the question is, do we just ignore it if we're only looking at the neighborhood, or do we go and say, okay, let's bring in that information, perhaps give it less weight, but bring it in? And goes opposite, as in you may have no information about the country, but you have information about certain neighborhoods, and can't we just aggregate it all together? So this is basically what happens. We are taking studies which aren't exact matches and saying, okay, let's apply the information with reduced significance to the next layer of government hierarchy up, or next layer of government hierarchy down, or particularly bacteria taxonomy up or bacteria taxonomy down. So I've done here, we have the whole works. You can set the number of items you want here and there, and now you're ready to go and see suggestions. And what we have here is, first of all, we list the number of bacteria as too high or too low. And here, wherever it's too high or too low, is done strictly according to what the lab says and what you transcribe across. I have concerns about some of the ranges I've seen. I think some of their calculations, they went with a standard lab processing for calculating ranges, which doesn't apply to the microbiome. But if they don't declare exactly how they calculate the ranges, then you don't know. And even if they do calculate the ranges, all you get for information is it is within range, or it's too high or too low, and you transcribe across. When we go to a 16S sample, the detailed ones, then we get actual numbers, and then we can actually derive different ranges using different criteria, which means you have a better chance of detecting what's going wrong. So what here is, we have the things which are too high and too low, and now down below we have suggestions. And the first thing we see is antibiotics, but then we have resveratrol. So the confidence is the percentage, is the odds that it will cause a shift of the bacteria it is wanting to work on in the right direction. And let's go and take a look at an example. We have 7 bacteria here, and we have a little choice here, and the reason that button shows up is I asked for it to include the links. So let's go down and look at grapeseed extract, resveratrol. Let's open that in a new window. And we now see what it does. Now, things may not be absolutely perfect. We see a decreased Akkermansia municipa. And if you go back here, you see it's too low. So that is going in the wrong direction. But many other things are shifted in the right direction, which means we have to do a trade-off of what exactly we do. So we have resveratrol, which are decreasing things which are too high, and streptococcus, it reduces that. Oh, wait a minute. Here we have it increases Akkermansia. Here we have it decreases it. And that is because different studies will have different results. Sometimes it is because the study is dealing with an animal with a particular type of diet, or it deals with humans with a particular condition, or a particular ethnic group, or a particular age group. And the result of the grapeseed can be different for different age groups, different ethnic groups, different diet types. So some says up, some says down. Here we actually list everything that is involved. So you see that Akkermansia increases one, decreases the other, another one increase, another one increase, another one increase. So we have 4 of them. We're saying it increases. Once it decreases, you probably agree with me that it's probably, that's 4 out of 5, that's 80%. It probably will increase it. And if we go back here, we have Akkermansia. And what number do we find out? We find out 0.7. That's almost 80%. So that's where these numbers are coming from. These numbers are coming from looking at all the individual studies. And you can go and you can look at the studies yourself, and you can see exactly what it does. We have exactly 13 things which are impacted. And if you take a look at that and says, okay, that's nice. And what are we trying to change? We are trying to reduce that one. That was not in any of the listed items. We could go over and go further down. We have the antibiotics listed there. Now, if I go back to the suggestion list and we move antibiotics and show suggestions, we find that resveratrol has moved up a lot, and that is because the numbers are scaled. So the absolute best combination is a 1, is scaled to be a 1, and everything is relative to that. Sometimes the 1 would be on the void, sometimes it would be there. So here we have metformin. We have a variety. Adjuan, which I use, I like it. Sage, clove, pomegranate, green tea, thyme oil, Lactobacillus plantarum. So we have actually an explicit probiotic listed. Other thing to note is over here we have a measuring rule. And the measuring rule goes over and lists studies using this bacteria and what dosage was used in either clinical studies or a actual completed study. And we see about 12 billion CFUs a day, 10 billion CFUs per day, and that is 60 billion CFUs per day. So we see that it gives you what dosage you should be using, which hopefully will help. Avoid trying to do homeopathic things. Say, oh, I'm taking some Lactobacillus plantarum. It's in my mixed probiotics. And you go in, you find it's 1 million community forming unit. 1 million, and that the studies are suggesting should be 10 billion. 1 million to 10 billion, no wonder it doesn't have an effect. So, pay attention to the rules here. It will do it, and over time I'll probably get more measuring rules. I've generally just done things which are there, which are common, and added them in. Again, gives the dosages. Down, way down below, we have commercial probiotics. So it gives you the best ones and rank over it. You don't necessarily have to take the top one, but you can do it, and you can go over and see the citation. For example, if you click on here, and again, as before, open it in a new window, you see the thing, and the probiotics, although it is listed, the reason is actually based on the species in the probiotic, not that there being clinical study done with this probiotic. It's based on the species which are in the probiotic, not necessarily the strains, just the species. So let's go back and see what else we have. So there we have, for example, Akkermansia as a probiotic is on your recommended lists, which probably is a good thing to take separately. And then you have over here, you have ones which you should avoid, like a plague, because they would generally shove things in the wrong direction. So some bacteria probiotics are good, and some probiotics are bad for trying to correct the microbiome. Further down, we have mixed results, which is some cases it says good, in other cases it says bad. If we take something like this one, which has a very high impact, much better than anything up, but some of the impact is negative, we can just go in and take a look at that. and see what the study's showing and what the impact is on it, and you can go through and just take a look through there. Again, the purpose is to give you the information. Yes, I'm asking you or your MD to do a bit of work if you don't take things. Last one is, these are probiotics with no impact. None of the information given can we find anything useful on it. So if you're taking some of them, no reason to stop. If you're interested in trying some of them, go ahead and give it a try. Basically, they have no known impact on what you're trying to change. And what you're trying to change is up here, which is 7. Again, with a 16S sample, you will often be looking at, some cases, 60 or 70 different things have been picked rather than just 7. And that's the difference. And that is one I will actually be updating in the next day or so to include what level it is. That is a species. These are, this is a phylum, this is genus. So you can see what level it is. So that's basically it. Give suggestions, things to avoid, things to take. Avoid list is always well worth going through, because you may be eating something regularly which is not helping correct the microbiome, things which will feed the microbiome. For example, let's take a look at the effect of barley and oats. And we see, oh, it decreases Akkermansia, decreases that one, and increases Streptococcus. Ding! Okay, now I know why we don't want to take barley or oats. It's right there, spelled out, nice and it's easy. So that's basically it. Getting 16S samples gives you a lot more information, a lot more things you can do. But it means doing that type of test. Other lab sample will work with what you have and will work with it as much information as we have. You don't have consensus building, you don't have a bunch of other things. It's basically much leaner suggestions, but you do have some ability to control the suggestions. But most of many of the stuff on the advanced ones are not available. Especially things like the KIG, which is based on examining the genes in your microbiome and the genes in your probiotics. Okay, that's it.